Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. You know, folks, there is a lot of frustration, and I think specifically with the true crime, the real crime community, on the fact that there's not more information out on the Madeline Soto case. And some of the things that I'm looking into, and again, I'm a veteran of these cases. I've done cases like this, and my last 10 years on the NYPD, I was in Manhattan North Homicide Squad, and we worked cases like this. And when I put the thumbnail up on the screen, Madeline Soto case, how glaring a mother Jennifer Soto's inconsistencies. You know, and some may say, well, she's a mother that just lost her child and she's nervous and she's this and she's that. No, inconsistencies matter, and what they mean to me is deception. Deception in trying to cover something up that you may be involved in. And I think the chance that Jennifer Soto is involved in this case are between 95 and 100%. That's how strong I believe this. And we've seen all kinds of podcasts on this on this case, and some of the biggest ones were, of course, on reading body language, and of course, Jennifer Soto and Stefan Sterns put themselves right out there by going on TV, and the performance was abysmal, right? I think there's no one that watched that didn't say, oh my God, they look guilty as hell. They can't tell the truth if their life depended on it, right? And so when we talk about inconsistencies, some of the most important things in a story, in the way you tell a story, is something that we used to call an acronym, NYPD, and it's a horrible acronym. It's the last letter and it's the when, where, who, what, how, and why of a case. And the when and the where is so important. Times, places, occurrences. And when the times are so screwed up, you question, are these people telling the truth or are they lying? And the other thing is, did they meet with each other and try to get their stories straight? And because of that, the stories became even more screwed up because they couldn't remember what the other person said, right? And everyone is worried right now because, first of all, the police department is doing, the Kissimmee Police Department is doing exactly what they should be doing. And that is not talking to anybody, not giving any information to the press, not putting any information out there right now, because as I've said a million times on this show, the press can be your greatest friend or your biggest enemy, And even, we see in the true crime community, many people put stuff out there that just isn't true, someone put out something the other night. I'm not say the person's name. Oh, she had a baby bump. I didn't see that. Why are you making that up? And many people conjectured that could be a possibility. Yeah, and if it was a possibility, if it is, the autopsy will reveal that. But don't make things up that you see a baby bump. I mean, where'd that come from? And I think that's really sort of disgusting when people do that. Sharon Reynolds, thank you so much for the $1.99 super sticker. Very much appreciated. So all of these things we're going to look into, and we're going to look as to, is Jennifer Soto, is she in this? Is she a player in this? And there's so many different scenarios that we can imagine. But I always said in my police career, when people were being deceptive and not telling the truth, they were doing it for a reason. And usually it was to hide something. And if that's the case, we're going to find it out pretty soon. So, folks, hold on to your hats, hold on to your seats, your earrings, your wig, or your toupee. And thank you for being here and not watching the Oscars. We need much higher ratings than the Oscars, and inflate police off the cuffs ratings, not the Oscars. Anyway, you're about to enter true crime from a police perspective, and you're about to enter it off the cuff. You're entering the police off the cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped in Canton Ranch, Michael Byler.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
You know, when I talk about inconsistencies with this case, they're just flying off the shelf. They're not even close. I mean, when we talk about times, places of occurrence, we don't even know right now, and none of us know. I believe the police probably know. We don't know where this murder took place. We have no idea right now. Could it be in the home of Jennifer and the home that Madeline grew up in? Is that the crime scene? Because they have already performed a search warrant on that, but we don't know because the police have never told us, have they? So when we talk about inconsistencies, you know, the Sunday that Madeline Soto had her birthday party, that's the last anyone can verify that she was still alive. So between the end of that birthday party and the next morning, that's approximately when she was killed. That timeline. And how do we know that? Well, we don't for sure. There's no scientific evidence because the body wasn't found till approximately 5 days later, right? So there's none of the science in it, the time, the body temperature, and although there is, you know, the rigor mortis and that type of stuff and the decomposition, which can give scientists an idea of how long the person's been dead, but no specific time. So what must we rely on? Well, more science, right? Digital science, cell phones. How about Pamela Barker? Question, Bill, I never heard, or maybe I missed, where was the birthday party held? Was it at their home or Jennifer's mother's home, or was the party held? I believe it was at Jennifer's home. And guys, if I'm incorrect about that, some of you true crimers are more up on this than anyone, but I'm pretty sure it was at Jennifer's home. Kissimmee, Florida, people devoting time to pull personal pictures of Madeline from family social media sites and reposting them all over the internet, disgusting and intrusive for this poor child's memory. So, Kissimmee, Florida, I agree with you. I agree. Sharon Reynolds, she from the chat, she contradicted herself, which the timelines were way out in that interview. Yes, and is that some folks in the chat sometimes give the person credit? Oh, she's nervous, she's a mother, she's grieving, but she was also, in my opinion, covering something up because the mistakes were too glaring for it to be about being nervous or not being astute with what time things happened. So February 26th, Madeline Soto was reported missing around 8 p.m. That's 8 p.m. at night after Stefan Sterns her mother's boyfriend reportedly dropped her off near Hunters Creek Middle School. Soto's mother went to the school around 4:30 p.m. to pick her up, but she was told that Madeline had never come to school that day, according to investigators. In addition, this is very suspect to me. Madeline left her cell phone at home. And the excuse for that, the built-in excuse for that, was that she has ADHD and she frequently does that. Does anyone in the chat know a single kid that, having left their cell phone in their car, in their house, would not say, "Oh, I left my cell phone," and go and run and get it? I think kids are so attached to their cell phone that I find that tough to believe. Red flag number one. Huge red flag, because kids are on their phone, it's attached to their body. So to believe that, I'm having a hard time believing that that actually occurred. And again, how convenient was that, right? February 27th, the Orange County Sheriff's Office issued a release to the public about Soto's disappearance, asking for information about her whereabouts. February 28th, a massive search was conducted by the Sheriff's Office. Orange County Sheriff John Mina said that the deputies assessed Soto's phone, finding information that indicated she wanted to live in the woods when she turned 13 on February 22nd. All you guys that know about child abuse and SA, that is a definitive sign that a child is having major problems, that she wants to run away from home and live in the woods. I mean, very sad, right? A very sad situation, but the police found that right away. So when we talk about some of the evidence and some of the things that they're looking at in this case, I know a lot of people spent a lot of time on body language, and that's important. But guess what? I'm going to open everyone's eyes here. Detectives are outstanding at reading body language. And the persons or detectives that interviewed Stefan, they know he was lying. They knew his whole act. So I always question, for entertainment purposes, yeah, it's great to say, "Oh, this is deceptive, that is deceptive." But guess what? Detectives are professionals. They know that. They know the signs of deception. They know the signs of when someone's trying to put something over on them. They know all of that, and they know when to bear in on an interview, and they know when to back off. And based on that, they were able to arrest Stefan by going through his phone, right? Going through his phone, and we all know that they found some horrific evidence inside his phone, right? So deputies searched the area where she was last seen, areas where they'd received tips, and any areas where their investigative leads took them. Ultimately, the search came up empty. However, the sheriff's office announced Sterns was arrested as the prime suspect in Soto's disappearance. Well, that's not what he was arrested for. He was arrested for what they found on his cell phone. And I don't want to spell it out. We all know, you can read the arrest affidavit, and it spells out exactly what Sterns was brought into and was brought in for. And that's one of the most consistent times that we could see. On February, this is the first page of the affidavit. On February 26, 2024, at approximately 2000 hours, a 13-year-old victim was reported missing by her mother. The mother advised her daughter's stepfather, they were calling him her stepfather early on in this investigation. Stefan Sterns picked her up from her home and dropped her off at Hunters Creek Middle School, 13400 Town Loop Boulevard, Orlando, Florida, on February 26, 2024. The mother then went to pick up the victim from school at dismissal and learned the victim never showed up for school. An interview was conducted with the victim's stepfather, Stefan Sterns, who again, he's her boyfriend, not her stepfather, who advised he picked the victim up and dropped her off in front of Peace United Methodist Preschool, 13502 Town Loop Boulevard, Orlando, Florida, which was down the street from the school at 0840 hours. Hunters Creek Middle School begins class at 0930. A license plate reader captured Stefan's vehicle with Florida tag IYLL82 driving away from the school at 0810 hours. During the interview with Stefan, he provided consent to search his phone. However, he stated that he accidentally performed a factory reset on his phone on February 26th, the same day the victim went missing. Stefan provided his phone number, and they list the phone number in the rest affidavit. How suspicious is it that Stefan, on the day that Madeline disappeared, performed a factory reset on his cell phone? As Professor Mike Geary would say right away, well, that's consciousness of guilt. He's guilty. That's why he did that, you know? And then we all know what the police found on that phone, the horrific images they found, and proof of SA and some other just horrific pictures that were on the phone. And this is the beginning of the investigation, of course. And now a lot of people will say, oh, well, why haven't the police made an arrest for murder yet? Well, they want to have all the evidence that they need, because you make a mistake in a case like this and lose a case like this, it is so horrific that they want to have no chance whatsoever that they can blow this case. So that is why they're taking their time, and that is why they're also keeping the information quiet, close to the vest, if you want to say. I know everyone gets sick of hearing that term, but it happens to be true.
Shannon, that's not the only thing you noticed in this new report.
Greg, no one has been charged in Madeline Soto's death, but we do know investigators are looking into who knew what and when. And some of that means looking at those initial interviews of the couple and the ones later on. Sources tell me the statements about the timeline are not consistent. Jennifer Soto told us last week that the last conversation she had with her daughter was about her 13th birthday party the night before Maddie disappeared.
I told her good night, and yeah, that was it.
But according to documents, Sunday night was not the last time Soto saw Maddie. New documents show that Maddie's mom told deputies on February 26th that she saw her daughter getting dressed for school at 8 o'clock that morning, and that her boyfriend then took the teen to school. But since that initial report was taken, we learned from the Orange County Sheriff that Maddie was likely dead earlier than that.
Our detectives have determined that Madeline was never dropped off. Instead, we believe she was already dead at the time, and that Stefan Sterns moved her body in the early morning hours on that day.
Channel 9 has been going through statements from Stephan Sterns and Soto trying to piece together what happened in the last few hours of the little girl's life, starting with our interview of the couple. Her mom told us last week,
We dropped her off at school, close to school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way.
but in that same interview then said,
I wasn't the one who took her to school in the morning. That was my partner. But yeah.
detectives believe Maddie was likely dead early Monday morning because a video timeline shows Maddie's belongings being dumped in a dumpster at 7:35 by Sterns. At 8:19, Sheriff Mina said video shows Maddie in Sterns' vehicle believed to be deceased. Since then, the case has moved to Kissimmee Police, and sources tell us that Soto has been interviewed multiple times by detectives at 2 agencies, and that they are looking closely at all the statements she's made. But officially, Kissimmee Police won't comment. So this initial report also shows that Sterns told investigators that after Maddie got out of his car, she stopped to look in that book bag before he drove away. That same book bag was found actually in the dumpster. after her death. He then said he went home for about an hour after going to the vape store and running errands. He was home that day until 2:30. Detectives say a tip showed him changing a flat tire not far from where the little girl's body was found that afternoon.
All right, Shannon, it is starting to piece together. Thank you. We also spoke to suspect Stefan Sterns before he was arrested. He also told us he dropped off Madeline for school the morning of her disappearance.
She was asleep for most of the way. Told her have a good day at school when she got out. I love her. She said, thanks, love you too. That was it.
Again, law enforcement believes Sterns never drove Madeline to school and that she was already dead that morning.
Greg, also breaking this afternoon, the state attorney's office says it's asking the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to investigate how and why a photo that.
Well, that's a whole other thing that's not important for us to go into right now. So when you hear that timeline, that he dumped her belongings at 7:35 in the morning into a dumpster, which her belongings included the laptop, the school's laptop, and I believe her backpack, which contained her notebook, of which she said she was reading later on. So all of these signs, all of these all of these lies, they're important, because when someone lies, they're obviously trying to cover something up. And the fact that many, look, Jennifer Soto is lying with him. That is why I 100% believe she's involved in this. And Madeline was killed, probably in that house, either between the time of her birthday and the next morning. But certainly before 7 a.m., he's dumping her belongings in the dumpster on the property at 7:35. And then video has him or her inside his car, and she appears deceased. That was coming right from the Chief Mena, who reported that. So, and then the fact she never showed up at the school, and the fact that she was never dropped anywhere near the church that he claims to have dropped her off at. So a massive search was conducted on the 28th. We know that. That's from Orange County Sheriff John Mina said that deputies assessed Soto's phone, finding information that again, we spoke about her living in the woods. He also said that deputies searched the area where she was last seen, areas where they received tips, and any areas where their investigative leads took them. Ultimately, the search came up empty. However, the sheriff's office announced that Sterns was arrested as the prime suspect in Soto's disappearance. In a release, investigators said detectives discovered disturbing images when they searched Sterns' phone, and a review of the device's data showed that someone had tried to delete the evidence ahead of time. The images and videos on his phone were criminal and SA in nature, and detectives were able to pinpoint those crimes to the family's home in Kissimmee, the release shows. As a result, Sterns was arrested and held on no bound. He faces charges of possession of child sexual SA materials. Stefan Sterns has an opportunity again to appear in court. He didn't appear in court. These are horrific charges. On March 1st, during a news conference, Chief Mina said investigators were confident that Jennifer Soto was already dead, having been killed at her Kissimmee home before Sterns moved her body. That's the first I've actually heard a news source, and this is the news station where they, I'll tell you exactly what it's the local news station that clickorlando.com that said that she was killed inside a house. Now, if that happens to be true, then the search warrant of that house, of which we don't know the results of the search warrant, would have uncovered some evidence of that. We would hope, right? Teresa Webb from the chat, if she had to call Stephen to come to take Maddie to school and she was dead by 7:30, then he wasn't there. Well, you know, there's people saying right now, and again, we don't know, and anyone's guess is fair game. Some folks I've had in the chat have said that they think that Jennifer killed Madeline, killed her daughter. I don't believe that. I believe that Stefan Sterns is the killer. I really do. And look, I could be wrong, or they could have acted in concert. And what does that mean? Well, they could have committed this horrific crime together, you know, and there's a distinct possibility of that. And when we learned about the essay that had been going on since Madeline was 11 years old, that's why a child would want to run and flee into the woods and run away from this horrific home life she's having with this monster. Really, how could you call him anything but a monster, you know? And to think that potentially Madeline's, and there's a picture of Madeline on the top left, her mother in the middle, Jennifer, Stefan Sterns on the right with his mugshot there. To think those two could be complicit in this is rather disturbing. I have the missing person photo up on missing, age 13, sex female, white, blonde, blue, 5 foot, 110 pounds. And, you know, this was early on when this came in as a missing person. Everyone was hopeful, of course, that this little girl would be found and found alive and not not dead, which is what, of course, what happened. Frisky Jellyfish, no arrest because the way Maddie died isn't obvious. That's why he hasn't been charged yet. I suspect mom will be arrested any day now, Frisky Jellyfish. You know, Frisky Jellyfish, we don't know how she died, but what we do know, and I say this every time I have a show that's about a murder, there's something in homicide investigation called manner of death and cause of death. And manner of death is homicide, suicide, natural, accidental, and undetermined. So there's 5 ways. This was ruled right away as a homicide. So that means specifically the definition of homicide is death caused by another. And in this case, it is criminal. Because not all homicides, believe it or not, are criminal. Someone could cause someone's death trying to save their life, like a medical professional could do that. And the medical examiner could rule that a homicide. But this, of course, is criminal. Now, cause of death could be blunt trauma, could be stab wound, could be asphyxia. And in my opinion, and again, and I don't have any inside information, but in my opinion, I think that this case is going to come back, cause of death being asphyxia, because he's this big, powerful man with this small 110-pound girl, and he could easily strangle her and you know, have it done with very quickly. And that's what I believe occurred, is that she died by asphyxia. Some of the other things, and again, these I'm not like into the predicting thing. I believe in the science of investigation, and there's so much science here. Right away, we have 3 cell phones. What do I mean 3 cell phones? Well, we have Madeline's cell phone. We have Jennifer's cell phone, right? And of course, we have Stefan Sterns' cell phone, which already turned out to be a treasure trove of evidence that had put him in jail right now and will be holding him in jail. So everyone's freaking out. Well, why hasn't he been charged with murder? Whoa, slow down. He's not going anywhere. But then people are all uptight also about, Well, how about Jennifer Soto? She's out there. Well, when the police have enough evidence, and if they do, she will be arrested and she will be charged with this also. But we have to look at this case as you don't want them rushing to do something and make a mistake and have this savage get away with it, right? Have either one of them get away with this. Elizabeth Salvatore, I think that's a real problem for mom, saying she talked to Maddie at 8 a.m. That book bag is going to hang around both their necks like an albatross. I think mom was covering him. You know, Elizabeth Salvatore, I agree with you 100%. As I said, statements matter. Deception matters. Lying matters. Why are you lying? Why are you covering up that you're involved in it? You're either involved in it or you're covering up for Stefan Sterns. And you're right. He's seen throwing her laptop and her backpack in the dumpster at 7:35. It's not jiving with the statement. You know, Frisky Jellyfish, I suspect the murder was done by mom. Wow, a bunch of you guys are predicting that. You know, Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore 2, go listen to the interview grandmother did with Telemundo. Very suspicious. Is that what you meant, Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore? Michelle, how far is the school from Jennifer's condo? Well, I know that where her body was found was 17 miles from their condo. So I don't have the exact distance from their condo to the school. Elizabeth Lackey, I was impressed the cops got his phone so fast. Well, Elizabeth Lackey, what was so impressive about the police getting his phone wasn't the fact that they got his phone, was that they got permission to look into it. And they discovered right away that he had tried to erase all of the evidence on it in a factory reset on his cell phone on the same day that Madeline went missing, right? A factory reset. So he thought he was going to erase all the incriminating evidence, you know, that he was going to erase that on the phone. Cindy Probes, thank you so much. A new member, Cindy Probes, thank you so much. Welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. Very much appreciate all of our fans, all of our subscribers, all of our friends. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. If you like real crime or true crime from a police perspective, then you're in the right place. And if you're not subscribed to us, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell, hit that like button, share us with your friends and your family. In addition, we have a Patreon with 3 different levels if you want to support the channel financially. And we also have a YouTube channel memberships with count them, 5 different levels. And we appreciate all of our channel members, all of our Patreon members, and all of the people that day-to-day support this channel. Because we're trying to do it from a police perspective and give you the best view of what we know about these investigations. So, you know, Court TV with did a bit of a good interview. I want to play a little bit of this on the screen just to recap some of the things that has gone on in this case.
Becoming a teenager. There was a party, but her mother, Jen Soto, could not make it. But her mother's live-in boyfriend was there, Stephan Sterns, a man who had been in Madeline's life for at least a couple of years. In fact, Jen referred to him as Madeline's stepfather, even though they were not married. The next day, Jen and Stefan say Stefan gave Madeline a ride to school. They also say Madeline was embarrassed and did not want to get dropped off in front of the school, so she was dropped off at a church parking lot less than half a mile away. That's the last time they say anyone had contact with her. Investigators say the evidence paints a much different picture. They claim they have evidence of Sterns dumping Madeline's laptop and backpack in a dumpster and have images of Madeline dead inside Sterns' car. Madeline never made it to school and was found 4 days later in some brush 17 miles from their home in Kissimmee, Florida. Sterns was arrested after images of Madeline being sexually assaulted were allegedly found on his phone, some dating back to when Madeline was just 11. But at this point, there have been no charges related to her death. Tonight, we take a closer look at the story told by Madeline's mother, then take a look at the recovery scene. What will this autopsy reveal? All this as we investigate the tragic life and death of Madeline Soto.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's just not fair. It's not fair what happened to this little girl. It's beyond outrageous. Tough life. She's being tortured. She was being tortured. The allegations are that this was going on for years, this sexual abuse in this home, and it's not stopping. You know, why didn't it stop? Why didn't someone step in?
You know, I had asked that question on a prior show, and we know that there's certain people in our society that are mandatory reporters, and that includes the police, the fire department, teachers, doctors, nurses, healthcare workers. And if they see something, and the old adage in New York after 9/11, everyone said, you see something, you say something. I find it very difficult to believe that this 11-year-old girl was being abused, SA, for over 2 years, and she didn't show signs socially or show signs in school, show signs to her doctor when she got a checkup. I find it hard to believe that no one else picked up on this. And that is disturbing to me because she could have been saved, I think, you know, if someone intervened. And when we talk about, you know, Phil Grimaldi the other day brought up something called the Stockholm Syndrome. And Stefan was the abuser of this poor little girl, Madeline Soto. And did the mother just go along with it because she didn't want to lose him as a boyfriend? Because she identified as in a kidnapping with the captor? Those are some of the questions. But I find this so horrific that this occurred for such a long period of time, and no one reported this, you know. And as I say, the topic of this episode, Madeline Soto case, how glaring are Mother Jennifer Soto's inconsistencies? Well, I'm going to answer that question. They're hugely glaring, to the point that I think she's involved. And many people early on in this investigation were like, oh, she has nothing to do with this. I think that if you look more deeply into this and you look at the history of this and you see how far it goes back, how could she not know what the hell was going on? Do you think her daughter told her and she ignored her? Is that a distinct possibility? I think it is. I think it is.
Why didn't anyone know? A lot of questions tonight, but the bottom line to all of this, she only lived to her 13th birthday, and it's not fair what happened to her. Now, let's talk about Mr. Accidental Factory Reset, Sterns over here. I mean, this is the guy. He's in custody now because of what was on his phone. The phone that he accidentally did a factory reset on the day that this little girl disappeared. Like, come on. Does he really think everyone is that stupid? Like, you can't put two and two together? And by the way, how do you accidentally reset your phone? How do you do that? Explain it to me, please. I'd like to understand how that can be done accidentally. But I don't believe in coincidences.
Well, it can't be done accidentally. He did it on purpose, of course. And Claire, MI fan, Lower Peninsula. Will Sterns' lawyer try to claim that Sterns only gave permission to check the physical phone device, but not permission to check what the phone put into the cloud? We check yes in the apps. Claire, what I believe is, I think the police, this wasn't their first rodeo. So what they would do is they would have him sign a consent to search his phone, and they would include that in it. So the possibility that you're talking about wouldn't happen. And I think what they also should have done to really cover themselves was, once they discovered these horrific images, was to stop. They now have probable cause. He's under arrest. Now get a search warrant to make sure that his attorney down the road, he's absolutely going to challenge this. But so stop. We looked into his phone with his permission. We saw this. We saw that. We had probable cause. At that point, we stopped the search. We went to a judge and we got a search warrant based on what we witnessed. I'm almost positive these guys in Kissimmee, the detectives are really good. And I'm sure, well, I don't know for sure. I don't have, but I think that's what they would have done. I was a boss in homicide for 10 years. If my guys came to me with that situation, I'd say, stop, hold on to the phone, secure it, go get a search warrant to make sure that down the road, this evidence would not get thrown out. Robert Webb, nowadays, young girls can tell teachers at schools, and the teachers are more likely to tell the young girl, be quiet about it, and no one will know it. Robert Webb, I hope that's not happening. I hope that doesn't happen, because, you know something, a mandatory reporter, that's what they're called, a mandatory reporter for. And if you don't report something that it's mandatory that you do, you can be arrested for a misdemeanor. So I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, I hope that a teacher or a mandatory reporter would never do that. That's for sure.
I just don't. Most of the time, they do not bear out. You can put pieces together. In all the cases and the trials we cover on Court TV, all these little circumstances, all these facts, you start putting them together and it leads in one direction. And that's what's happening here. And the question is, what happened? What happened to this little girl? When was she murdered? Where was she murdered? How was she murdered? Those questions have not been answered yet publicly. There's an autopsy. Hopefully that autopsy will reveal a lot of that information. And when I say information, I mean evidence, because every piece of information is evidence in this case. Because this just can't happen without someone being held accountable for what happened to Madeline. The other thing that's confusing me tonight is Mom, Madeline's mother. What's her story? What exactly is her story? What is she saying? What has she said? What does it mean? I don't have a clear picture yet. And obviously she's not talking anymore. Investigators are gathering up their...
You know, this is the whole theme. What is the mom's story? The mom's story is that she's involved. And we're not going to find, like someone had said the other night when I was covering this, that, the police can bring her in again and that's it. Once they get one crack at her, and that's what we used to say. What does that mean? You get one crack at her. You get one chance to interview her. And then after that, when she realizes that she potentially is a suspect, she's going to lawyer up, invoke counsel, and then the police are no longer allowed to interview her. So she invokes counsel, and all of the cute little lies and the deception and the inconsistencies she said, now they cannot challenge that again because they had their one crack at her. So they have to come up with solid evidence that puts her in this whole thing.
Evidence and information, so we don't know everything, but we're going to try to learn a lot more tonight. So let's start with what we know right now about Mom's story. And it begins, let's take a look at the arrest affidavit. This is the arrest of Mr. Accidental Factory Reset. On February 26, 2024, approximately 2,000 hours, Madeline Soto, 13-year-old, was reported missing by her mother. The mother advised her daughter's stepfather, Stefan Sterns, picked her up from home and dropped her off at Hunters Creek Middle School. The mother then went to pick up Madeline from school at dismissal and learned that Madeline never showed up for school. So
That's when she finds out. She goes to pick her up at the end of the day. That's when she says she finds out her daughter is missing. Stepdad dropped her off at school. Now, we know she's spoken publicly because this began as a missing persons case. And when she spoke with WFTV 9 down in Orlando on March 5th, or actually a report from WFTV on March 5th. This is interesting. Newly obtained documents show that the girl's mother told deputies on February 26th that she saw her daughter getting dressed for school at 8 a.m. on Monday, and Sterns then took her to school.
So we know that that's not correct because at 7:35, Sterns was seen throwing the laptop and the backpack into the dumpster onto the property. And apparently, Madeline was inside his car. And the police chief, Mena, put it out that they believed at that point she was already dead.
Okay. More statements from mom there. Now, let's take a listen to a February 27th interview, again by WFTV 9 down in Orlando with Jen Soto. Again, this is her telling her story and the story about what happened here. Let's listen.
We dropped her off at school, close to school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way.
You know, everyone heard she said we, right? So everyone heard that she said we, and there was no we in that. She recanted that later on.
She was spotted walking by the church, by the middle school on the cameras. They saw her hang out in the parking lot for a little bit and then get up and leave. They didn't see a vehicle or anything else. They just saw her walk away around 9 a.m. heading towards the school, but she never made it.
What was the last thing, I guess, the conversation that you two had, you and your daughter?
We spoke about her birthday party. She had a birthday party on Sunday. She had a great time. I couldn't make it because I was working, but she had an amazing time. She was so happy with all her gifts. I told her good night, and yeah, that was it. I wasn't the one who took her to school in the morning. That was my partner. But yeah, in my heart, I feel like somebody took her. This isn't like her to just pick up and run away, or just not go to school.
You know, one of the things that is unclear in this whole thing is where was she? No one knows exactly where Madeline Soto was. She was at work. Okay. And the last time you saw your daughter then was at her birthday party, because she recants later on that she didn't see her in the morning. So when I say that deception matters and telling the truth and being deceptive matters, yeah. How glaring are Mother Jennifer Soto's inconsistencies? They're hugely glaring. They're not true. She's trying to make up a story either to cover up her own involvement or to cover up her boyfriend's involvement. And just think how egregious that is when the stakes are such that her daughter was murdered. And some of you were saying in the chat that you think she's the one that did it. I mean, I can't say that. I'm not privy to the autopsy. I'm not privy to a lot of the information that that the police have, that they know that we don't know. Oh, snap, Sharon, agreed. This is more time to get to these mothers and girls to stand up and not be taken by these essays. Same for fathers and boys. This needs to be taught somehow. At Debbie McCarthy. Debbie, thank you so much for that. That's so important. Teresa Richards, how did she call him to come to get Maddie to school? He was supposed to have went home to his mom's, which is 2 to 3 hours away. She had to call around 4 to 5. Well, apparently he never went home, if that's where he was staying. I think he was probably still living there. And that could be another story. Look, the police could find that out very easily. They just check the GPS on his car. They check the GPS on his phone. There's so many things they're doing right now investigatively that take time. Nothing comes back immediately except on television when there's an hour police show with 20 minutes of commercials. The case is always solved in the last 5 minutes. And, and they have that easy button. Everything's easy. There's nothing easy about homicide investigation. Barbara Miller, all you have to do is suspect a child is being abused to report. We need to teach our children that it isn't snitching if you tell someone about a friend being SA or physically abused. Yes, I agree, Barbara. Thank you so much for that. Donna Champion, the sixth story of these two monsters will be exposed, and I hope it's soon. Justice is coming for little Maddie. Debbie McCarthy, 100% agree. Thank you so much. Yeah, you guys, one of the things I'm happy about in regards to Sue, what are the mom's coworkers saying about her behavior the night before this happened? Sue, again, the only people that will know that are the detectives. And when I speak about homicide investigation, we talk about perpology and victimology, right? Victimology. Well, in a normal case, obviously the victim here is Madeline Soto, but another victim is Jennifer Soto. But sometimes a victim, because she's the mom of the deceased, right? Sometimes a victim can turn into a perp. And that's why the police have to do a deep dive into their background and to look, again, search warrants of the house, search warrants of their cell phones. That includes Jennifer's cell phone, Madeline's cell phone, and of course, Stefan's cell phone, which scored big. They recovered the evidence that's keeping him in jail right now. So all of these things, and the police, one of the things the police got on Stefan was they got it uncovered a lie he told, because a camera, a license plate reader discovered his car going by a certain location at a certain time. And what he said to them about a specific place and time did not match what the license plate read. So he was lying. They knew that. So much of this electronic evidence can give us timestamps, of when, where, and it's amazing. And so people that lie sometimes can be caught in their very lies because they don't know that technology's already caught them up.
I don't know what to think. She was last seen wearing a green hoodie, black shorts, white Crocs, a black JanSport backpack with gray hibiscus flowers on it. She got dropped off in the morning. We did not notice until after school pickup at 4 o'clock when I went to go pick her up, and she wasn't at school.
All right, when you put all this stuff together, I'm hearing some clear contradictions, some holes in the story, and some ambiguities. I want to take some time tonight to try to clear things up as best we can at this point of this investigation. So we got to go on the ground down to Orlando to some folks who are working this story. Joining me in Orlando, Florida, WFTV investigative reporter Shannon Butler. Shannon, great to see you tonight.
Good to see you, Vinny.
Also with us, editor of the Osceola News Gazette, Ken Jackson, also working this story. Thank you so much, Ken, for joining us. All right.
Mickey Mantle, thank you so much for the 20-pound super sticker. Hi, Sergeant Bill. More polish for those racks. Yes, Mickey Mantle, thank you so much. I'm seeing some people in the chat that I haven't seen in a while. Welcome. Thank you guys for all coming back. This case is as horrific as a true crime case gets. And there's so much analysis on this, but I think this is when you go to some of these journalists, some of them on top of it, because the police are not releasing very much right now, which is to their credit. I will say, keep it close to the vest, because this is a horrific case and we want to make sure there's a conviction.
Let me start here. Shannon, from your perspective, how
clear is it about this birthday party that takes place on Sunday, going to school on Monday, who's in the house, who's not in the house, who's going where? Is there any clarity to what's going on there before this alleged drive to school?
Well, that's the time frame that we're still trying to piece together as we try to look at this timeline of events. We know that the birthday party happened. We know at some point she was in that home. We don't know who was in the home with her at the time because the stories have not been clear. We've talked to Stephan Sterns, we've talked to Jen Soto, and the stories weren't quite clear about what happened then. All we know is they claim that he took her to school, and that's when she had vanished.
Now, Ken, I want to put up the first contradiction that I'm seeing in some of these statements that have been made public. The affidavit states that Jen told deputies her partner, Stefan Sterns, dropped Madeline off at Hunters Creek Middle School on the morning of February 26th. When interviewed by WFTV on February 27th, Jen says Stefan Sterns dropped Madeline off near the school. What about that drive? Was that drive made? Where's he driving that morning? And is there any evidence of him being anywhere near the school that day?
Well, first of all, Vinny, thanks for having me on. If you look closely at that map, first of all, something I want to say about that neighborhood is if you notice right there on Town Loop Boulevard, the church and the school are separated by State Road 417, which is a elevated toll road. So to say that they're really near the school, you can't see the school from the church. So there's that.
So this is really good information that, why, if the school and the church are separated by another road, why would you drop her off there? So when detectives are interviewing him, they would, and knowing the area, they would heavily question that. Or why would you drop her off there? And then when they pull video, she's nowhere to be found on video. They said there was some grainy video, or in the beginning could have been her. It wasn't. And there's the chief Mena who gave the press conference. He says that she wasn't on the video. And then when they looked closer, of course, at the video of the car, they think that Madeline was dead inside the car.
And then we do have the inconsistency of, in the affidavit, the mention is that Stephan dropped her off. And then we hear from the mom that we dropped her off. So that's something that we're trying to confirm right now. I did speak informally with a member of Kissimmee Police Department on, on Tuesday night. They're now the lead agency in the investigation. I was there for an unrelated event. And I asked about any investigation that's currently going on in the mother. To tell you how tight this investigation is right now, I was told, and I'm paraphrasing here, was that we have a focused investigation going on in order to present an airtight case to the state attorney's office. That's all the Kissimmee Police Department is saying right now.
And you need that airtight case. I mean, Shannon knows I spent a lot of time down there in Central Florida. Was it more than a decade ago? And we thought that case was airtight. All right, Shannon, here's another contradiction I'm seeing. In her interview with WFTV, Jen says, and this is what Ken just said, we dropped Madeline off for school. In the same interview, Jen says her partner, Stefan Sterns, dropped Madeline off for school. What do you make of that contradiction, the we versus like, oh no, he did it?
Well, I think at first when she told that story before we know what we know now, we just thought it was one of those conversations where you have, you and your husband, you're like, oh, we dropped her off at school at 8 o'clock. But then when that affidavit came out and an initial report that says something completely different about when she last saw her daughter, we started to go back to that interview and listen to it again. She told us twice in that interview that we dropped her off at school. And then she says, well, I didn't drop her off. My partner dropped her off. That's another thing. She calls him a partner. We've heard it's the stepdad. We've heard it's the boyfriend. Also, that's unclear about that relationship too. So we know she wasn't dropped off near her school or at school because the video evidence that the deputies have and police now have, that doesn't add up. It was nowhere near the school.
Next contradiction. Told WFTV that Madeline was spotted on camera in the church parking lot walking towards the school around 9 a.m. on February 26th. And this is what Shannon's saying. Police say video evidence leads them to believe Madeline was already deceased 8:19 a.m. on February 26th when video footage shows Stefan Sterns' car at their apartment complex and Madeline's body is visible. Ken, this was the part of that interview that confused me the most because she's referencing something about being.
You know what? Some of the things that she's referencing is obviously the sign of her talking to Stefan and them getting their stories together, and they screwed up big time. But that's what it seems like to me, because when two people lie and then they forget their lies and they forget the details of their lies, I believe that's what happened. And that's why she didn't come across very well, because I don't think she could remember. Remember we said how important is when, where, who, what, how, and why of an investigation. And that's really the meat and potatoes of an investigation is the when, the where, the who, the what, how, and the why. The when, we have a time frame, right? We don't know when specifically Madeline was killed. The where, we don't definitively know that. The police may know. They said that it was inside the house, but we don't know that. We don't know the results of the search warrant, do we? If that happens to be true, that she was killed inside the house, when, where, who? Well, the who, we believe, is Stefan Sterns, but could the who also be Jennifer Soto acting in concert with Stefan Sterns? The when, the where, the who, the what? Well, the what obviously is the murder of this young girl, Madeline Soto, who had been put through hell from years of SA. So the when, the where, the who, the what, the how. The how we don't know right now either, right? Remember we said that would be the how in this case would be the cause of death. Is the cause of death blunt trauma? Is the cause of death asphyxia? Is the cause of death a stab wound? What we don't know. We don't know that yet. And the why, that's another thing. Is the why covering up this horrific abuse that was going on for years? Or is the why that potentially Jennifer Soto, the mom, was involved in this? And if you can come up with any type of motive, jealousy, finding out about it. I don't know how it could have went on for over 2 years when the child was 11 years old, and the mom would just be finding out now. So all of those things and those questions, the when, the where, the who, the what, the how, and the why, is the backbone of investigation. And those questions, it's almost like an investigative checklist, must be answered. GM, you know something, there's no evidence of that, that Madeline Soto was pregnant. And if that is a possibility or is true, the autopsy will reveal that. And but we don't know. And many people, of course, online are saying that someone even did a show that he saw a baby. He didn't see anything. He made that up, really, you know. Contrary Marge, the stepdad looks like a cut-rate Charles Manson, and the mother looks like another dopey Candace. The Sixth Sense from the chat, there were preliminary reports she died of asphyxiation. A source close to you. Is it true? We don't know. They're keeping things very close to the vest. They didn't release anything about cause of death. Robert Webb from the chat, I would like to know if he called the mother at her job before she got home, or did he let her get home before she knew what happened to the young girl that night. Well, that's why search warrants are done on cell phones, right? What time did he call her? How many incoming calls did Jennifer Soto have from Stefan Sterns? How many outgoing calls went from Jennifer Soto's phone into Stefan Sterns' phone? All of that can be, as again, using a Gearyism, consciousness of guilt. They were both trying to cover each other's asses, you know, and all of that is part of this investigation. GM Mel Stiller, it's just my theory. Something set them all off, and mom was involved in her demise. Just my theory. 7th-generation American Sergeant, can you address the possibility of protective custody? Please, I'd like to hear from your point of view. I'm 7th-generation American. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Protective custody for who? I'm not. If you could spell it out a little, I'd be happy to address it. Hope Boschel. I'm also wondering what evidence they have to have announced that they're confident she's dead well before the body was found. What could it possibly be? You know, I thought that the language that the Encyclopedia of True Crime and the Unknown, or Antisocial Personality Disorder Man and Borderline with Bipolar Disorder Woman. Yes, thank you for that information. I agree with you. Now I'm losing my train of thought of what I was going to just say. PJ53, I wonder if they will turn on one another and spill the beans to save themselves. They do it every time. If someone is offered a deal, well, I'll tell you right now, Stefan Sterns is getting offered no deal. So if there is any deal, any possibility of a deal, that deal would go towards Jennifer Soto, not Stefan Sterns. He's absolutely getting no kind of deal. I mean, for what they discovered on his phone, forget about it. There's no way. Folks, if you're looking for a fabulous defense attorney in the New York metropolitan area, then Joe Murray is your man. Joe's a retired NYPD police officer, and he is now a fantastic attorney. You can reach Joe on his cell at 718-514-3855. Email him at joe@jmurray-law.com. Or go on his website, jmurray-law.com. Not only is Joe a fabulous defense attorney, but a huge supporter of the Police Off the Cuff podcast. In fact, I want to get him back on the show as a guest. He used to be a frequent guest, and this commercial made him so busy he can't show up on the show anymore. I always say that. I don't know if it's true or not. Bill, you were about to talk about the language they used. Oh, okay, Pauline Buckles. Yes, the talking back and forth between the two, and you know that information going to be retrieved on their cell phones. So important, and that is what's partially putting Jennifer Soto, I think, as Phil would say, the trick bag, because she sort of implicated herself in these interviews that she did on television. And that is why I think a lot of people see her as maybe not so innocent. Quinta Huggins, also it's being said he didn't live at the Soto house. Did he take her directly to his house after partying? That's why the mom is lying, because she would be found out to be setting the essay happen. Well, Quinta, the essay has been going on for years, for over 2 years. So whether he was living there now or was staying somewhere else, it's been going on for a very long time. Sarah Maddie, thank you for all you do off the cuff. Love and light to all. Thank you so much. Very much appreciate that. Lisa Laney, is there a second cell phone? Well, you know, I mentioned the 3 cell phones that are so important to this case. And that, of course, is Madeline Soto, Jennifer Soto, and Stefan Sterns. Those the cell phones, we almost realize also cell phones are GPS devices too. So we can track where Stefan Sterns was and where he's been in the days and weeks leading up to this horrific crime. Where was he staying and where was he traveling? So all of those things are extremely, extremely important. Fuzzy Doxy, I doubt he was smart enough to have more than one. You know, you never know. Could he have more than one? Yeah, he could. But the fact that he was keeping all his criminal activity, recording it on his cell phone, he's not a rocket scientist.
On camera at 9 a.m. That's impossible. Do we even know if there is surveillance video at that church?
Well, we know that there is surveillance camera at the church, but we don't have. We don't have.
You know, someone had asked earlier, how did the police definitively know that she was dead? There was video of her in the car that they could clearly see that she wasn't moving and she appeared to be dead. I don't know if that was their only evidence of that or they have other evidence, but the chief came out and said, and the word he used, I didn't really like the word he used. He said, we're very confident that she was dead at this time. So, yeah, it's a little bit scary, but yeah, they knew she was dead when he was pretending to drop her off. The mother was pretending that she was home, and all of those things had happened. It appears that she was dead before that he even went through the guise or the ruse of driving her to school.
At 9 o'clock, we don't have her on that. Now, something else that we're trying to confirm right now is that we're trying to confirm, it's part of the affidavit was that they have it on camera that Stefan dumped some of Madeline's items, the backpack and the laptop, in a dumpster. What we're trying to confirm now is if they were found in the apartment complex where Stern's address is listed on one of the charging affidavits. Now, that's on the west, about the northwest side of Kissimmee. Unfortunately, it's a gated community, so it's not like we can all just head on in there and look for ourselves. But they have not been able to confirm, and at least we have not been able to confirm that that's the dumpster. But that would have been a full, because I know my daughter's in 9th grade, so she just got out of middle school. So I know middle school goes in around 9 o'clock, a little after 9 o'clock. The timing from the affidavit says that they saw the car about 7:45. It dumped the items in the dumpster, and then at 8:19 they was on camera again with what they think is Madeline inside the car. And they believe that at least the Orange County investigators believe that she was already dead. So there's a lot of things in here that aren't adding up that we're hoping will come clear once the investigation is revealed by Kissimmee Police.
Another contradiction, Shannon. Ready? Here we go. According to a WFTV report, Jen Soto told deputies she last saw her daughter 8 a.m. on Monday, February 26, getting dressed before school. But she also told you guys in an interview she last spoke to her daughter on Sunday, February 25th. So to me, this is the biggest mystery that I have. Where's mom in the morning? Who's in the house? When could this have happened? Where was the party? What time was the party? Where was mom? Did mom speak to her in person? Did she speak to her on the phone? Any clarity on any of this, Shannon?
Well, we know that her mom said that she was not at the party, and I think folks at that party confirmed that she was not there. She somehow was back in that apartment, and not for the mom to say that she had that long conversation with her about how excited she was about the party, how she liked her gifts. We have video of that birthday party. We know that the little girl did celebrate her birthday, but once she got home, that's the problem that we're having. Did you say goodnight to your daughter as you told us originally, and then someone told you that he took her to school? Because then in the affidavit or the incident report, the first responding deputies, when they talked to her, she said she saw her get dressed for school. Then she saw Stefan Sterns drive her then to school around.
See, there's a lot of, that's not just inconsistencies. Those are lies, you know. Those are lies. And that's why, in my experience, and from what I'm hearing here, it just puts her right in there. It puts her right into this case. It makes me very suspicious. Monica from the chat, mom didn't speak one single positive word about her missing daughter and she was consoling him. She cares more about him than Maddie. I agree. Something's very wrong in this situation. The Sixth Sense, the poor girl is dead, respect might be in play here. The Sixth Sense, I don't know really what you're trying to say. I mean, we're looking at the mother potentially, based on her actions, based on her deception, based on her lies, as a potential suspect. We have to treat this as we're giving the respect to the deceased, Madeline Soto, not the potential people that may have killed her. So, 7th generation America. Sarge, can you address the possibility of protective custody? Please, I'd like to hear from your point. Look, if you mean if they had discovered that Madeline Soto was the victim of SA prior to this murder, could she have been put into protective custody? Is that what you mean? I'm not sure what you mean. Then yes, absolutely. And in fact, Madeline Soto has a father, a biological father, in another state. And I don't know if she had any type of relationship with him. So 7th generation American, I'm sorry if I didn't, it's not, your question's not clear to me. I'm not sure what you're asking me. Yeah, I mean, Pauline Buckles, yes, it's the timeline. It's all messed up and a mystery. Yes, but it's never clear. Did the mother sleep in the house overnight? Or was she at work? She kept saying she was at work. She didn't attend the birthday party because she was at work. So when was the last time she saw her daughter? Was it at the birthday party? Or was it that morning before she was driven to school, which her times is so screwed up? I take no credence in that. I do not believe anything she's saying in regards to that. Caitlin 267, if only this poor kid was carpooling with normal children. Yeah, but she still had this problem in the home. She was a victim of SA in the home. And that's the derivation of this whole problem. She was a child who was being abused. And Thunder Snow, none of this crap adds up. No, it doesn't. But that, to the police, I think it's probably very clear because they're not releasing the evidence they have, the information they have. And I think that's to their credit. From the chat, Tens Huvien, I'd like to know how the mother took the info that her daughter's body was found. And what did she say when she found out what her partner was being arrested for? Is she still standing with him? Tens Huvien, very interesting, right? That's a great question. And that if she took it well, that of what he was being arrested for, then I think that would show more complicity and more proof that she knew what was going to happen. Calcio Fan 10, you set the bar pretty high going up against the Oscars, but here's to you. Guys, we killed the Oscars tonight. You guys are all watching instead of the Oscars. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Cheryl F., I heard that Jennifer didn't go to Madeline's birthday party because she was at work. Cheryl, that's true. But then we want to ask, well, did she stay overnight at the house? When did she last see her daughter? Because she doesn't seem to be able to answer that question, or at least in a truthful manner. She doesn't seem to be able to answer that question. Things from South Texas. I heard that the mother hasn't shown up for anything and has lawyered up. Yeah, she absolutely has lawyered up. There's no doubt about that. And is that a sign of guilt? I wouldn't say it is. I would say everyone has a right to counsel. And once the police start getting intrusive and they're looking at you as a suspect, I think most smart people would request counsel. So it's look, the whole, as I said, the whole point of this on my thumbnail tonight how glaring are Mother Jennifer Soto's inconsistencies. And to me, they are hugely glaring. They are hugely important. They point guilt, I think, at her. They point that she potentially could be involved, and that is my humble opinion as a retired homicide sergeant.
8:30, but remember that video evidence at 8:19, according to the sheriff's office, shows that she was likely already deceased. So if she saw her get ready at 8 and then said he took her at 8:30, it's not possible if you look at the evidence that those deputies pulled from the apartment complex. They believe at 7:35, when her backpack was dumped in that dumpster, she was likely dead then. In fact, one of the reports, it says that Stefan Sterns said that he saw her in that parking lot actually open her book bag and was digging for something. And he said, I thought it was her headphones because she was always looking for her headphones. That was the same backpack that detectives say he threw in the dumpster at 7:35 in the morning. There is video at that church parking lot, but they've never said that's actually her. They had some conversation with them early on, and they've held on to that story that she was in that church parking lot. But no one has ever said that was actually her. It was grainy video, but detectives do not believe that was her, seeing as how at 8:19, they believed she was dead.
This is, I know investigators know so much more than we do, right? They're holding back, they're putting together, as you described, that airtight case that is necessary to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. But this is just, it's not adding up. Like, it's not adding up. What she is saying and what he is saying and what he is doing and the way her story has vacillated a little, something strikes me that is just wrong here. Ken, any indication when they say investigating? Because no one's been charged in the murder, right? No one's been implicated in what happened to this girl in terms of being either, abducted or killed or wherever that happened. Is mom part of the subject of that investigation?
Well, like I said, KPD was pretty tight-lipped when I talked to him on Tuesday, but I have to believe that she is, she's the only person who is around for this who isn't currently incarcerated. So currently, we still do not have murder charges in the case. We only have the sexual battery and the possession of child pornography charges against Stephan. But like I said, I mined for information on that the other day, and while I wasn't told that per se, I have to believe that she is part of this investigation. Simply because, like I said, she's not in jail. Stephan is. This is going to be a very interesting investigation when it comes out. I'm gonna tell you that.
All right, Shannon, as we sit here tonight, what's the question on the top of your mind that you want to be able to uncover the answer to? Like, what is the one thing that is really sticking in your head tonight about what happened to Madeline?
What her mother knew before her death in those 2 years where detectives say she was being abused by her boyfriend, what the mom knew then and what the mom knew in those final hours. There's a lot of question there. There's a lot of different stories. I think investigators are still trying to piece together. We're still trying to piece that together. I think until we know that, because remember, there's two separate investigations going on here, what happened before and what happened leading up to it and after. I think that they will look at the mom on both of those things. We still don't know what happened in those final hours or the hours just after Madeline was reported missing. And we don't know what the mom knew, if anything, about the 2 years, maybe even more, that her daughter was allegedly being abused.
And how about you, Ken?
Well, what I want to know is, so the investigation includes that the sexual abuse that was on Stephan's phone occurred in 2022. Now, the affidavit redacts the name of the victim, but it lists the date of birth and it matches Madeline's. Okay, so if it happened in 2022, number one, she was younger than 12 years old. And can we say for sure that it occurred consistently ever since 2022? So for the last 2 years, and if so, what I want to know is the mom coming from a position of being fearful as well? Like we said, like Shannon said, what did she know and when did she know it? Was she covering for Stephen? I mean, these are things that, as the parent of a 15-year-old myself, I really want us to get to the bottom of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, both of you are
some very good information came out of that interview. Some of you guys in the chat are talking about that there was a lot of drugs in the house. I don't know exactly where you got that from, but part of the autopsy, especially on a 15-year-old girl, will be toxicology. So that the autopsy should already be finished. They should already know the cause of death of Madeline Soto. They're just not releasing it right now. The toxicology usually takes 6 to 8 weeks. So if there are drugs in her system or she was a habitual user of any kind of drugs, that will be revealed in the toxicology report. Erica Olson, police have only one shot to build the case. They have to have solid evidence or he might walk. They have to take time to get all they can. They have him on SA. He's going nowhere. Erica, you're 100% correct. Also, their investigation has to determine whether or not Jennifer Soto is involved in this. Tens Hoovian, was there a list of birthday guests? I'd love to hear from them. Tens Hoovian, I have no doubt that the police interviewed everyone at that birthday party. Those are some of the things that investigators will absolutely do. Melissa Toms, when did Madeline go home from the party? Who took her and stayed with her? Did the mother pick her up at the party and take her home? That's unclear. I'm not even clear at this point where the birthday party was. I was under the impression that the birthday party was at her home. Some of you are saying it was at the grandmother's home. I haven't seen that. If anyone has absolute information that it was at the grandmother's house, please let us know. Lifespan, wellness, and beauty. 60 is the new 40. Prying Pola, the ignoramus type of idiot does that, but this idiot was trying to make it look like Madeline was still alive. But why would he be driving her back home after driving her to school? Lifespan, wellness, and beauty. You're right. That good, very good, good point. Caitlin 267. Mother said she came in, so I think mom was saying daughter had party at her mother's family's home. Okay. But it's still not clear as to when Jennifer Soto saw her last because there's such conflicting statements. So she says, she said she had a great birthday party. When was she discussing that with her? Could these discussions have been happening by phone? And then she also said she saw her the morning before she was driven to school. So all those things are apparently not true. Sylvia Coti, I guess. Madeline told the friend he was abusing her and the mom did nothing. She pretended to not know. She probably had to deal with the boyfriend. He won't leave. He could. Sylvia, I don't know if that's in fact true. I'm sure that the police have, as part of the background on Madeline, so they interviewed all her friends. And specifically in a homicide investigation, you always want to interview the victim's best friend. Because the best friend of any victim of any crime usually knows the most about a victim, knows the most about their life, knows the most about who they hang with, boyfriends, girlfriends, that type of thing. So Trina Baker, mom is involved in doing things to help him, I bet. Trina, right now we can give a hypothesis and sort of an educated guess, but we don't have real solid definitive information. To me, the most glaring sign of something being very wrong with Jennifer's story was her lack of emotion while she talked about her daughter's disappearance. I know I'd be a blubbering mess. Melissa Stiller, I agree with you. You're 100% right. Something seems very wrong personality-wise. Michelle, according to a friend of Stephen and Jen's, they were both on medication for bipolar disorder. He stopped taking it, and she would take it and basically fall asleep. Yeah, I mean, look, all of those things will be looked into. All these things will be part of the investigation. Monica, mom was jealous of Stern's sick love and affection for Madeline. I believe they both abused the child, and Jen sacrificed Maddie to keep Sterns around. They both deserve to face justice. I 100% agree with you. So to Encyclopedia of True Crime and the Unknown in the chat, Florida doesn't release autopsy findings in a minor without parents' permission. Hopefully, BioDad will be able to release it. They don't have to release it to us, period. The press will probably file what's known as a Freedom of Information law, a FOIL request to have them release it, but they don't have to release it. And good point, she's 13 years old. And why would the mother, if she was a suspect in this, allow them to release it? I don't think they would. So the hypothesis of this whole show, the premise was how glaring a mother Jennifer Soto's inconsistencies in regards to this case. And in my humble opinion, they're glaring. The inconsistencies are glaring. And to me, it shows consciousness of guilt, which Professor Geary uses that ad nauseum. I got it from him, but it shows that she's hiding something. It shows that she potentially could be involved. And that's what we've examined on this show tonight. And until we get other little pieces of this investigation back, for example, as we spoke about the results of the autopsy, the results of the toxicology, more information about cause of death and where the crime scene was. We know where the body was found, but we don't know where the actual crime took place. So till we find out some of those things, we're basically guesstimating, right? We're guessing, and we don't have solid investigative information. And as the case moves on, well, yet still today from the chat, PJ53, studying psychology and narcissists, sociopaths, and of course psychopaths commonly think they're smarter than all of us. Rachel Wyatt, the mother said she saw her go to bed and said she saw her at 8 a.m. The girl was already dead. You're right, Rachel. You're right. And that's why I think the mother's involved. Susie Hall, mother never once cried, but smiled a lot with what was going on behind her. I would be a total wreck. Yeah, I think most normal people would, something is not right in this case. Something, in fact, is very, very wrong. And that's why we've examined it on this case. It's Gillian, the mother said she came in and went straight to her room. So if it were over the phone, she wouldn't know that. You're correct, Gillian. If that's a fact, yeah, you're correct. But a lot of the statements, Sharona Rosario, what kind of mother won't attend their daughter's 13th birthday? The real birthday was on Thursday, 2/22. A lot of questions need to be answered. We don't have all the answers right now. Shar Kanef, she said police statement, she saw her getting ready for school. Also, Madeline was found with different clothes on in the missing posters. Guys, there's so many things that have to be answered. Solid questions we all have. Veda, I think mom was involved in a lot. I just have a feeling because it was going on too long. I agree, Veda. And that's one of the other things that, to me, puts her in this mess. Sylvia Coide, yes, in different stories, she saw her last night before then, saw her getting dressed for school. Venus Gal, her mother, grandma said she woke up and tired and asked him to take her to school. His friend said her family lived in the home and all they had was a room or two. Did that friend mean this home? Again, guys, there's so many things that we don't have 100% the correct information. But we will get it as time moves on. And one of the things I wanted to say in regards to this case, one of the things I wanted to say was that if there was any silver lining to this is that Stefan Sterns is in jail and isn't going anywhere. And now the investigators, the detectives, have a big window to put this case together. And all of us, of course, we want information. We want to know what happened. The press wants to know what happens. But the police want to get a conviction, and they want to hand this case to the prosecutor with no problems. Cross T's, dotted I's, and a slam dunk conviction of whoever and however and how many people are involved in this case. I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight and tuning in to Police Off the Cuff instead of the Oscars, and I really appreciate that. And again, if you're not subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button. It's free on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Share it with your friends. Make comments. We love to read your comments on this show. And, on another show, I had said something that was incorrect. And it pertains to Stefan Sterns throwing the backpack and the school laptop in the dumpster. I had said that he also threw her clothing. That wasn't correct. And when I'm wrong, I like to correct what I said that was wrong. And it turns out he threw the school laptop and her backpack in that dumpster. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Have a great Sunday night and be safe out there. God bless everyone.
One episode just ain't enough.